I would guess.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about that game. We'll talk about that game now. Then we'll move on and talk about we'll talk about the PSG game for a bit. What are you thinking with that one? Because I know that Slot again has been as respectful as ever. He's saying it's a difficult game. PSG are hardly losing any games. They're similar to Liverpool in their league. Obviously, they're miles clear. They're going to win that league at a canter. They do play Lille this weekend, so they do have a one of their harder games. They'll win, but they have one of their harder games, obviously, this weekend. Let's not forget, PSG struggled to make it into the Champions League. They still had to they only just got there without there was danger talk when they played Man City. There was talk that one of them could fall out of the competition completely. So PSG haven't had this rip up season where they've thrashed everyone. Obviously they have brought in Kvaratskhelia in the January window, so they're very strong up top now with Kvaratskhelia, Barcola and Dembele. They've got brilliant players all over the field. But I always think when Liverpool come up against these sides, having that second leg at Anfield is absolutely massive. Let's not pretend anything else. Everyone knows that. And someone and it'll probably be Luis Enrique, who's their manager, will come out just before the game and say, Anfield, it's not all that. It's not all that. You know what I mean? Someone will say it and it'll just rail it, no matter what the result is in Paris, whether it be a draw, a Liverpool win, a PSG win, someone from the PSG camp is going to say, oh, we don't hold any fears of Anfield and all this sort of stuff. And then they'll be in for a rude awakening when we get there. So I don't know why. It's probably, aside from Inter, it's probably the hardest round draw we could have had at this stage. We've already played Real Madrid, obviously. I don't think they hold any fear right now. I'll probably change my mind if we do end up having a semi-final against them, but I'm just glad we don't have a final against them. If we play Real Madrid, Anfield becomes a factor. And for me, that's gold. The last couple of times where that's been the case, something has been wrong, whether it be we've had too many injuries, our setup's not been right. You know what I mean? There's been stuff that's never been right when we played Real Madrid over two legs. But in a semi-final with this squad, this season, with this manager, I'd be quite confident we could beat Real Madrid over two legs. With Paris, I'm confident with that as well, but I'm not sure if I'm right to be confident, Grizz, because everywhere I'm reading just now, heads are falling off and saying that PSG are so good. Liverpool are really going to struggle against this side. And I'm just not so sure. You know what I mean? I think we just got shown the blueprint at the Etihad on Sunday of how to play against a team with pacey wingers that have got tricks about how Liverpool walked away from that one with a clean sheet.
Yeah, look, when the draw was made, and obviously people didn't want PSG, and as often happens, the team that you don't want, the least, the one that you don't want the most, you end up getting. Invariably, you end up getting. But what a lot of people have to remember is they play in a league where the intensity and the pace of the game is nowhere near the Premier League, the standard, the level, week in, week out. And often what's happened with PSG in Champions League games is when they've come up against sort of a higher quality opposition, they've been caught short pretty much every season. Like even when they had the superstars, so many times everyone was like, this is PSG season. This is PSG season. Now, what Luis Enrique has done now is pretty much kicked out all the troublemakers, stroke egos, stroke superstars. And he's got much more of a team going. I do love some of the players. I mean, Ousmane Dembele is probably one of the most inform attackers in world football right now. And I've got a soft spot for Ousmane Dembele because when he was coming through, before he went to Dortmund, I really thought this guy is going to be a world elite star. Obviously, we know injuries and possibly disciplinary issues have meant that he hasn't reached the levels that I certainly predicted and many predicted. I thought he's as talented as the greats of the game. But obviously, he didn't quite reach those levels, but he's playing out of his skin right now, Eddie. And they've got the Barcola kid, and now they've added probably one of the most sought-after wingers in world football in Kvara. So there will be an issue. There will be a problem because we're at that stage of the Champions League that every team we face will have at least one world-class attacker. It just so happens PSG probably have two in Kvara and Dembele. And obviously, Barcola is very, very good as well. But I like their midfield, Eddie. What the difference for me with PSG of the past and this PSG team is the midfield. Neves, Fabian Ruiz. these guys, they've got a much more balanced midfield this time round. But like you said, there is no fear when the second leg is at Anfield. And I think that will be the defining factor in this game, personally. You got another super.
Yeah, I do. I'll put that up. It's from Frenchie Alain, and he says, thanks for all the podcasts you guys do. Very happy this season. Shame we will lose Trent. But if we keep Virgin Mo, we can go again next season. We will speak about contracts. We will finish the show. I'm going to ask Grizz a couple of points on that because Grizz has been confident ever since he's been podcasting on this channel back in October time, that the three guys are going to stay. So we'll see if he retains that confidence. So thank you so much, Frenchie, for the super chat. It's so appreciated. It really does help us do what we do. And you say thanks for all the podcasts you do. Well, we couldn't do them without you guys. You know what I mean? You guys watching them is why we do this. And the super chats just make that all the sweeter. They make it so much easier when these super chats come in to plow that back into developing more and more content, to finding more and more people to podcast at all sorts of weird times at day, night, morning, middle of the night, all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean? There's work going on around the clock here at Anfield. And I think next week, when we're not playing, I think Gags is going to do something, a sort of backstory of Anfield Index. So look out for that one, because obviously it's been around now for about 15 years. So he's going to do a full rerun of everything that Anfield Index has done since his time. I've only been here since about 2017. So I'm not as in with the woodwork as some of the guys that you hear on the channel. I run most of the stuff that we do nowadays, certainly content wise, but there's a guys with a lot longer backstories than me that will be, and Gags is going to run you through all that. So that's definitely one to look out for. And as I say, thanks for this one. We will talk about contracts before we finish up today. Back to PSG then, Grizz. Sorry, I think you asked me something, and it's completely gone out my head with that super chat coming in. You have to go again.
No, I was just going to say about sort of in terms of I think the point that you made about the second leg being at Anfield is the defining factor.
Okay, so let's
go on.
Let's play on that then. So what result wouldn't be recoverable in your head? What sort of result wouldn't be recoverable?
Well, Eddie, we've shown against probably one of the greatest attacks in world football in Barcelona that we can recover from everything or anything at Anfield. But you'd like to think that this team won't go and get blitzed 3-0 at PSG. I mean, hope this doesn't come back to haunt us. But, you know, go and get a draw. Look, the way we played at Man City, I think, is a blueprint in terms of how we will approach this. Don't be surprised, guys. Don't be surprised if we go there with the double tens and wide forwards in Salah and Diaz, or Salah and Gakpo, and play Curtis and Szoboszlai. Don't be surprised if we do that in the away leg, because I think he's been working towards having this as an option, especially in a first leg away game in Champions League. So the way we handled Villa, because let's not forget, in that first half against Villa, we were absolutely the better team. We did not deserve to go 2-1 down at half time. And then obviously we controlled proceedings at the Etihad. So I wouldn't be shocked and surprised if he plays that formation and that personnel. But we have options, Eddie. We have got squad depth, and we hope and pray that everything is fine and there's no sort of comebacks in terms of injuries that we know of. Everything is fine apart from Gomez and Bradley. They will be out. But apart from that, a clean bill of health. I'm actually looking forward to it. And about 5-6 weeks ago, me and Gags were adamant. We don't care about FA Cup, League Cup, Champions League. We just want the league. Guarantee us the league and we don't care. Don't know about you, Eddie, but I'm getting a bit giddy. I think the league is wrapped and I want us to win the Champions League. I'm becoming a bit competitive with the Champions League now. Where are you with that?
Well, I think that, like what you said at the outset when we started talking about this game, I think we'd have all preferred not to have Paris at this stage. I think that's one thing that we can say. You know, I mean, we'd have preferred not to have that game right now. We'd have preferred a Bruges or Benfica, which was the other option, obviously, that we could have had for many different reasons. One, first and foremost, as I said on the show last week, no Liverpool fans really want to be going back to Paris after what happened last time. But that is the cards that we've been dealt, and that's what has to now happen. But and we hope everyone goes that does go, stay safe, and doesn't have any of the nonsense that they had the last time that they went there. So that's more important than the game itself. You know what I mean? That totally transcends everything, that everyone goes to the game and gets back safely and doesn't have to put up with any crap from the French authorities or the French police. So that's the most important thing. We should say that right from the outset. But in terms of where we go with this, we didn't want Paris, but Champions League, I think it comes down to this game. I really do, because I think if we can get past them, I can see us going all the way to the final. I really can. And even on the other side of the draw, who would we play in the final? We're going to have to be very unlucky not to win this competition if we get past PSG. I really do think that, because Real Madrid are still blowing hot and cold, but they had some voodoo stuff going on at that club, that Real Madrid. They're the devil's club. As I said on the show last week, someone in Spain, in that capital city of Madrid, has got one of these dolls and they're putting pins in it every time that Champions League comes, and they're praying to medicine doctors, and they're contacting Uri Geller or some sort of weird stuff that goes on at that Real Madrid, because they do stuff in this competition that shouldn't be possible. And they knocked out Man City last year and they shouldn't have done. They were awful, but they still did it over 2 legs. And you always think 2 legs, it's a bit of a leveler. No one's going to do 2 legs and the rightful team is going to come out on top in 2 legs. It doesn't happen with Real Madrid. They just come out on top. They just win because their club is completely geared to win in this competition. It's almost like the players have got their wives and girlfriends all locked up as hostages by the Real Madrid board. And it's a case of, if you don't win, then they die. Some sort of madness goes on.
You're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. But anyways, look. I know you kind of started looking past a couple of rounds towards Madrid. It's either going to be Real or Atletico. Let's be real. It's not going to be Arsenal or PSV. It's going to be Atletico or Real that we face.
Well, we would have to play. We would have to, if we got past PSG,
Bruges or Villa.
Villa. Say likely Villa. You know what I mean?
Likely Villa. Well, you say that, but I think that's going to be a tasty tie, to be honest with you. Bruges have got a few youngsters that are very, very, very good and up and coming. So that will be a tasty tie.
I'd certainly prefer to go to Bruges than Birmingham, if I'm being honest. But that's
yeah. But I'd like to wrong a few rights about that as well, because the way Villa happened and everything else in the end, I'd still want to put one over them, and it'll be a great atmosphere. I mean, Bruges will be as well, but I get your point. But I think PSG is the tricky and awkward one. As I said, the midfield, and someone reminded me, I forgot Vitinha. So Vitinha, Neves and Ruiz is pretty much as good as midfield as most in Europe right now. And it's for the first time it's balanced. Normally PSG are very, very unbalanced in terms of their lineup. It's very top heavy. But I think this time round it's very balanced, just like ours is as well. So I think it will be a good match.
You can test that defense. You can. I mean, Kimpembe's getting a bit older now. Marquinhos is good. Hakimi's brilliant. There's no 2 ways about that. I'm not so sure about Donnarumma. I never have been. I think it's all fluff and knickers with that fella. I just don't think he's everything that he's cracked up to be.
Yeah. Now look, I'd make us favourites, and I'm confident, and I'm very relaxed. And this is the effect of Slot, Eddie. I don't know about you. I go into games feeling very relaxed. We were doing the big watch along on the Big Six. Hope people that watched it enjoyed it. I certainly did. It was a massive evening, and obviously it turned out amazing for Liverpool. But I was so relaxed. I mean, normally you'd go into a game of this magnitude, and even the City away game, just so relaxed and calm about proceedings. It's just sort of the benefits of having this coach who, and you can imagine him having the same effect on the players. Do you know what I mean? Like if us fans, we get the most nervous and we're not playing. If he's having this effect on us, imagine how calming and sort of the influence he has on the players. And it's relayed on the pitch, right?
Absolutely. No, I do think so. I'm going into this with no fear, and it's almost like Liverpool fans should be going into it with no fear, because we should fear no one with the way that this team's playing under this manager. And there's every chance we beat PSG. But if we don't, then it's nothing to be too worried about either, because that's the same reason that you and Gag said you weren't so bothered about the Champions League, because all you wanted to do was the Premier League. So you've got that fallback at any point. Of course you want to win it. We wanted to win the FA Cup, we want to win the Carabao Cup, we want to win them all the tournaments that we play in. But it's not the end of the world if we don't win the Champions League this year. That's one thing. But I do think if we can get past this PSG challenge, then we've got every chance of winning this tournament. I really do. I can't see that anyone else is going to... We are the best team in Europe right now. We are. You know what I mean? So PSG will be as fearful of us as we are of them. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
their
Absolutely.
fans with Anfield as that second leg factor, they'll know all about what they've got to face a challenge. If you're listening to the PSG Index tonight, then you'll be absolutely cacking it about this game. There's no two, maybe not the home leg, but let's just say it's a 1-1 draw, or even a narrow PSG win in Paris, a 1-0 or something like that. They'll all be cacking it coming to Anfield the week after. They'll come and they'll have a good time, but they'll be expected to get knocked out.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. Sometimes we forget that we may have thought, that's a bit of a hard draw for us, but imagine the opposition. Imagine playing against this Liverpool side right now. I mean, we're a scary team to play against, and I've always loved it when we are nasty to play against, Eddie. And right now, I think we are nasty to play against. I mean, Newcastle don't often get outworked and outbattled in games of football. But yesterday, you could see their players disheartened by the just sheer volume of work and effort that our boys put in. So,
And I
yeah,
heard John Barnes
let's see our PSG.
John Barnes was saying today, actually, we'll just touch on this and then we'll move on to the summer chat. I did put the banner there. We'll finish the show with that. But I did hear John Barnes saying today that the cup final in a couple of weeks will have no bearing on what happened last night at today's game. And now that's the pro view. You know what I mean? A great like John Barnes is saying that. But just on the point that you made, I know they'll be different. I know they'll probably have Isaac back, and they'll certainly have Joe Linton back in midfield, and that makes them a completely different proposition in the middle of the park. They'll press completely differently. Their shape will be completely different. Gordon won't be coming central. Isaac will be central. Gordon will be on the left. Gordon up against Trent. That'll be the battle. You know what I mean? So we will see a different Newcastle, but there has to be scars. There has to be psychological scars for what happened to them last night because they weren't competitive in that game. You know what I mean? So I know it's a different day and there'll be a different challenge. We've seen it before. Going back to when we were kids, Crystal Palace got absolutely smashed 9-0 at Anfield, and then they knocked Liverpool out in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. You know what I mean? Liverpool can thrash Wimbledon and get beaten cup finals by them. You know what I mean? It's cup competitions. Anything can happen. But
absolutely,
that Newcastle game again at that final, I think we're massive favourites that day. I really do.
No, I agree. Of course, we are clear favourites, especially if we get the first goal. I think that's when the psychology of it all will kick in. Look, if they get the first goal, then obviously it changes things in terms of they've got something to hold on to. And Newcastle are most certainly a team that is sort of, I think, based their game on something to hold on to. I don't think they can control games as much as they probably want to. I definitely think they're a transition team, very much like us, a lot of pace. And we know, of course, maybe we touch upon Isaac, however you pronounce his name, in probably the final segment of the show. But they'll have Isaac back and they'll have Joe Linton back. And I think it'll be a cracking game for the neutral. It'll be a tremendous occasion. Two amazing fan bases. Let's give some credit.
And I'm pretty sure that if I was taking the train, I'd be 2 hours on the train from Edinburgh, and then I would be consumed with Newcastle fans. So I have decided I'm flying.
Absolutely. There you go. And good thinking. Good thinking.
So and I'm flying back as well. So I'm not going to be surrounded by Newcastle fans either way.